back again. Uno mas, as they like to say. One more time. I'm Josh. Here today with good buddy Adam.
Yo, hello.
We have a special guest coming on today that's going to join us to talk, unfortunately, about the Dodgers. But before we do that, if you're interested in what we do and you want to hear us talk about other things that are not Dodger related, you can go to GameRageMagazine.com. And you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Game Rage Magazine, Twitter/X at Game Rage Mag. Also on the YouTubes at Game Rage Magazine. You can follow all of our podcasts because there's like 35 of them now at this point, I believe. So do that. Anyways, all right, Adam, why don't you go ahead and introduce your cousin here?
Yeah, so we got a special guest, former, if I'm not mistaken, Rio Hondo High School graduate, former Cal State Long Beach dirtbag, and former MLB draft pick, cousin Danny, special guest of the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
How's it going, guys? It's good to be on. It's talking shop, talking baseball, and talking Dodgers. Nothing better than that, right?
Well, I mean, on my end, I love the fucking Dodgers, but over here, that's my fellow comrade over here.
There's a lot of things better than the Dodgers to talk about, okay? I mean, we got the Olympics going on. I mean, we're USA #1, okay? Then we can talk about that. But, all around this Dodger talk today.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want, we can take a bit of time so you can introduce yourself to, I guess our audience, and also, so we can become familiar with you. So what's been your experience with baseball?
It's been my entire life. I started playing as every child plays when they're young. Played in high school, went to college, played ball in college. Was drafted by the Oakland A's, and ended up not signing due to just some arm issues. And just being young and dumb, thinking, hey, this is going to happen every year, and it doesn't really work out that way. But typically, the arm issues is what gets you. I was a big boy, so growing up, I was 6'2", 6'3", 220, your prototype baseball player, and got to live out kids' dreams. Played in college, played in high school, and follow baseball continuously. Follow the Dodgers mostly. I do follow the other team in Southern California, or at least one of them. But, Dodgers are the end-all, be-all with me.
Yeah, I mean, from as young as I can remember, I remember being like 5 years old and you playing baseball like nonstop. I mean, you had your friend, one of your friends, like go and throw balls and throw balls to you and tee off and everything. And I just remember baseball being a big part of your life. And then you had all these Todd McFarlane action figures that were of baseball players. So, I mean, as far as I remember you, I'm like, man, nothing but baseball stuff. But of course, I know you're kind of just a fanatic of sports in general. But anyways, what are your, since we're on the subject of the Dodgers, we are currently a little over the MLB trade deadline.
Wait, hold on. Before we get into that, I got a question. I want to ask you a question.
Sorry. Go ahead.
All right. I'm just curious, what position did you play in when you played?
I was a catcher. And when Oakland came around, there was a few teams that were coming around, and I got to do some trips and some workouts. Oakland, when they drafted me, asked me to become a pitcher, and I hadn't really pitched in my life, but I had a live arm, so I would do anything to play ball. So I threw in the mid 90s, which at back then it was really fast. Now you got these 20-year-old kids throwing in the hundreds. So times have changed a bit, but I thought I was a very good catcher, but other people saw me at just a different position, and like I said, once in college I was a catcher. So and then like I said, I had a live arm, and when they ask you to move and do something different, hey, I'll do whatever it takes to stay on the team and win, and work my ass off.
Yeah, no, man, because I was a catcher too. I played catcher and third base, and so they kind of did the same thing with me. It was like, oh, you can, because listen, you got to have a cannon to throw down to second, essentially, when you're trying to throw guys out. So I don't know if that was like a thing back then where they, let's just put them on the mound and see what happens, And yeah, I mean, you got to have decent accuracy to throw down to second base. I mean, you're hitting almost a pinpoint target to get some dude out that's got a head start running on you, essentially. So having some control, I guess, because I did see a lot of other guys that I played with that, like, yeah, they somehow converted to pitchers. They were catchers, and then somehow throughout the years, it's like, all of a sudden they started becoming the other end of that, the pitcher side, which, I always think pitchers are idiots, but, that I always used to say that. But, I just thought that was interesting. So cool. Good to know. All right. That was all I had to ask.
Okay. So now I guess we could transition over to Dodger baseball, which has been an arduous time, an arduous journey for this team. They started looking real good for the first couple months, and then things started to fall apart. What's been your assessment of the Dodgers team currently?
It's the injuries. We have, a third of our lineup, our 3, 4, 5 hitters, 2, 3, 4, 5 hitters, leadoff hitter, all on the DL right now. Mookie Betts, Max Muncy. So, you got some big pieces that aren't playing. They're not productive. They're on the bench with real no timetable of returning. We lost, 3/5 of our rotation with Yamamoto going down. Buehler hasn't been the same. He's on this ayahuasca trip down in Florida, so I'm not sure what the hell he's doing. He should be returning. Yamamoto should be returning. He just made a bullpen. He just had a bullpen session on Friday. So, things are turning up and looking up for the Dodgers. I'm not concerned. All my friends that message me and we talk, it's right now, just enjoy the magic carpet ride. They're playing pretty good ball. They're still competitive with missing big pieces of their lineup. And, they did some pretty good stuff at the trade deadline. I think the Tommy Edmonds trade is a really big deal where, it's really going to dictate where Mookie plays. And I think Mookie's days are numbered at short because Tommy Edmonds is a plus defender at short, and he's a plus defender in the outfield. I think he's arguably a Gold Glove caliber center fielder. So you may see Andy Pages move over to left field and move Teoscar to right. So I think it's looking good. We just need to get our pieces back. And, right now, the Dodgers will be judged in October, not August, not September. It's all about playing on Halloween and playing until, November, something, Angel fans can't relate to.
Yeah, it's been 10 years since we made it to the playoffs, I think it was. So, yeah. But I will say that is a very key point that you make, that honestly, the regular season almost doesn't matter as long as you got to do good enough just to get you to the dance, right? Because September, October, that's the time that matters. And it almost is irrelevant what your record was during the season, because as we've seen, in playoff sports, anything can happen. You could have the New England Patriots go an undefeated season and then lose at the Super Bowl to the New York Giants and Eli Manning, right? So the Dodgers. And the Dodgers, and not to cut you off, but the Dodgers have done that. We won 116 games and we got bounced. So we've been on that ride where we win historical number of games to do what? To flame out in the playoffs. So I think as a Dodger fan and a lifelong Dodger fan, we know we're going to get to the postseason, as you mentioned, and it's really what happens in the postseason what determines how good the season was. Other middling teams, they're happy to win 80, 90 games, be competitive, but the Dodger gold standard is it's World Series or bust, and that's the type of pressure that it's fun to have. It's fun to have it. It brings out the crazy fans in LA selling out every night. You got Ohtani Mania, which was down the street for the first 6 years. So it's go big or go home for the Dodgers, and that's awesome. It's fun to follow. It's fun to watch, and like I tell my friends, just enjoy the magic carpet right to October. Then it's like nut cutting time.
So if there were things to pick apart from the team itself that you're not particularly enjoying, or you think they're flawed in some way, what are those things that make them not as dangerous or not as much of a threat, even though Vegas has them as a favorite for the World Series?
Their pitching's in shambles. And how they pitch. I was reading, and I think it was John Heyman who put it out, was the Dodgers haven't had a starting pitcher in the playoffs go more than 5 innings in like 7 or 8 years, which is insane. insane. And you guys know baseball. What wins in baseball or in playoff baseball? Pitching and defense. I'm really happy with Tyler Glass now and his power arm, and Yamamoto looks like he can be that as well. But if I was to nitpick at the Dodgers, I would say it's their starting pitching not going deep, because you're going to just tax your bullpen, and you can't be having your bullpen to throw 3 or 4 innings every playoff game, especially with the high leverage innings you'll be seeing. It's just not a formula to win in the playoffs.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And it's mainly supplemented by the fact that the injuries have just amounted on them to the point that they're basically calling up their top prospects to compensate for all the injuries. And I have to say, man, the fact that we're even within the top 5 records of baseball and still holding it down with not that much offense through the 5 through 9 part of the batting lineup, it's still kind of amazing this team is still hanging in there and atop the NL West, because, San Diego, I think, is starting to creep up, if I'm not mistaken, as far as the NL West goes in the standings. But
yeah, they're like 4.5 games back right now.
4.5 games. But yeah, I think the thing that I've really enjoyed the most is seeing guys get called up like Landon Knack and River Ryan, and I think there was one other pitcher that ended up getting called up. But yeah, just really enjoying these guys that are getting called up and stepping up. And the thing that kills me, man, is like when Dave Roberts is pulling guys when they're at least like 5 innings deep, and they can probably go 6 or 7, but for whatever reason, he's just like, oh, I don't like the matchup. I'll just get somebody from the bullpen and see what they can do with the situation. But what do you make of Dave Roberts' calls as far as like pitching goes?
I'm not a big fan of his. As much as he's very likable, he's articulate. I'm not on board with him babying and protecting these pitchers. These guys are big boys. They're all 6'4" strapping dudes. Let them go ahead and throw 105 pitches per game. That's not going to shatter their arms. I'm not a big fan of Dave Roberts and how he manages his bullpen or his starting pitching. It's, he talks a lot about high stress innings, high level innings, and, they're professional ball players. They've done this their entire lives. I don't think it's asking a lot to let guys, put together 6 innings, 7 innings at 2 or 3 runs that they've given up. That's not gonna, with this offense, that shouldn't kill them. I'm not a big fan of Dave Roberts and his managing of our pitchers. So, and some of the guys that you had mentioned, Adam, River Ryan, Gavin Stone, and some of their top prospects they haven't even brought up. Their number 1 pitching prospect is Nick Frasso, and he's supposed to have 100-mile-an-hour fastball. So he's probably next year's call up, or maybe this September call up, depending what our arms look like in September. So.
Yeah, even the shape of the bullpen itself, man, I'm glad some of the players ended up getting traded or DFA'd away. Yarbrough got sent off, I think, in the Chicago deal. And then Johan Ramirez was like killing me, dude. I was watching. I already knew it was going to be at least 2 runs. And I just don't like the constitution of our bullpen at the moment. It's so... it feels like it's constantly like hamstrung, and the only saving graces, and I can't even say that they're saving graces at this point. Evan Phillips used to be really reliable as a closing starter, but then he got PTSD or shell shock. I'm not really sure what's going on there. Blake Trinan has been going through something. I don't really know. And the only really like consistent arm has been Banda, and I think maybe Daniel Hudson. Other than that, everybody's kind of been wonky.
Yeah, our bullpen has been in shambles, and it's going to play a big role once we get to the playoffs. Vesia had a really good first half. He's been shaky coming out of the second half. The dude Banda, that guy's been amazing. I think he's been really good for the Dodgers coming in. He's been clutch. Hudson's been okay. Like you said, Trident's a head case. As good as his stuff is, he just hasn't put it together all year, and maybe she'll... has injuries, maybe something he's just not talking about, but I don't know, that bullpen needs to shape up, and there's no it's up to the starters to go deep into games to really minimize how much the bullpen gets used, and that'll be exposed in the playoffs, where one of the best bullpens is probably going to be San Diego if they can sneak their way in. They're going to be they're going to make games really short with their bullpen. Although they don't have the starting pitching the Dodgers have, but their back end will be really tough to score runs on.
All right, so I want to go off on a bit of a tangent since you started about starting pitchers. Well, at least in the Dodgers case, only going roughly 5 or 6 innings, and if that, I don't know if that just feels like a symptom of maybe what's going on in the MLB in general, but I feel like I'm getting the impression that starters aren't going as deep in general in baseball, with the exception of guys like that are the outliers like Paul Skeens or maybe the leading arms in baseball itself. But as far as like in general, man, nobody's really going that deep anymore.
No, they're not. And that's been changing for quite a few years, where MLB's gone to the analytics route of, hey, we're going to shorten games. Our starters are going to go 5 or 6, and then we're going to bring out, 5 or 6 different arms from the bullpen and try to make the game shorter. And I think that's the direction that they're heading, is trying to make the game shorter by having solid bullpens. But as we know, as Dodger fans, it's hard to find those good bullpen arms that are going to, Eric Gagne's not walking through those doors to shut down any inning for us right now. So, I don't like the whole movement of baseball that starting pitchers are just throwing less and less. You do, like you said, you have some outliers that go deep into games. And honestly, one of the guys who does go pretty deep is Jack Flaherty. He's been a workhorse. He's not the greatest. He's about an average pitcher. I think he's about 49 and 39 in his career, but he eats innings, and that's something the Dodgers need. So I'm hoping to see 7, 8 innings from Jack Flaherty for the next 5 or 6 starts till we hit September and October.
All right, I want to pose a question to you, because this was somebody that I actually really liked in the beginning of the season. And yeah, he kind of teetered off, but I don't think he deserved being traded away back to Boston. But James Paxton, how did you feel about that specific player and him returning back to the Boston Red Sox? Because I thought he was actually serviceable as like an innings eater. And I mean, he was doing the job that you asked of him, and I felt like they did him dirty by sending him back to the Boston Red Sox. Or actually, I think he got DFA'd, if I'm not mistaken.
He did get DFA'd, and he signed with the Red Sox. I'm okay with it. It's a business, and that's one of the unfortunate parts. And let's be honest, the Dodgers are covering the salary. So does he care? No. Maybe the only thing he cares about is he's not on a winning team anymore. But he was going less and less. He was eating innings, but he was struggling through 4 and 5 innings for some of his last 5 or 6 starts. And a lot of the insiders were saying that he was just out of gas. He's an older guy. He's a big dude. So they were just saying he was running out of steam. So, and we just need deep starting pitching, and hopefully with Yamamoto coming back in a month, and Jack Flaherty, Glasnow, hopefully he can get straightened out and give us some innings. And again, hopefully Walker Buehler makes it back. We could, those are the power arms that we're going to need in the playoffs. But to get back to James Paxton, I'm okay with it. He did the job. He was a piece that we needed, and it's business. It's not going to be the last time that the Dodgers let go of somebody that was having a pretty good year for them.
Yeah. And to further add on to the pitching subject itself, I've actually been kind of amazed. I mean, I loved Mark Prior when he was on the Cubs and everything. And to have him as part of the pitching staff, like the lead of the pitching staff, the way he's been, and maybe just the pitching staff in general, but the way people have been having their careers revived through the Dodgers themselves, like Andrew Heaney, Tyler Anderson, a lot of the guys that were, I'm trying to think of other names that were in relief pitching that had their stuff revived, or rather just their career extended and going on to other teams to have like a nice sizable contract. I have to commend the Dodgers pitching staff for just keeping everybody in tip-top shape. And I imagine that this Kopech fellow, this relief pitcher Kopech, I'm hoping that he ends up being the closer for the Dodgers, because he's throwing 100 miles an hour and could use somebody like that for a closer.
Yeah, I agree. Mark Pryor's done a really good job. And, his demeanor, like you said, when he was with the Chicago Cubs, he was really calm, really quiet on the mound, had great mechanics. So hopefully we can get something out of this kid Kopech. He's been on the radar for a few years with the Chicago White Sox. I had him on my fantasy team. He has a live arm. He just doesn't have the consistency of throwing strikes. And to be a closer, I don't care if you throw 103. If you're a Aroldis Chapman, if you can't throw strikes and you're putting people on, that's not the way you're going to be closing games. But I do love his arm. He has a monster arm, and he has swing and miss stuff, which is what you want too in the playoffs. And just to close in general, you really want swing and miss stuff, which the Dodgers don't do a lot of. I think Glasnow is the only guy who does a lot, who leads the team in strikeouts and really has the swing and miss stuff. Everybody else, the ball gets put in play, and as you've seen, our defense isn't all that great with Marcus Betts at short, and when Muncy was not nursing whatever phantom injury he has. So hopefully we can Mark Pryor can turn some of these pieces that we got around.
So we've had the return of Kershaw, which has been, I think, close to maybe 2 years at this point. And I got to say, it's a real treat to see him back, man. It feels like a living legend is among us. I mean, it's felt that way for the last couple of years, because not knowing whether he's going to just retire or maybe take his chances of maybe signing with the Rangers at some point. But one of the things that I ended up looking up as far as his statistics go is that he's very close to 3,000 strikeouts. Knowing that there's maybe August, September to close out the year, do you think there's any possibility that he can finish off the year with 3,000 strikeouts to really add another capstone to his already legendary career?
I think if he gets enough starts and doesn't have any setbacks, yeah, for sure, because he was always known as a big strikeout pitcher. And granted, that was 10 years ago, but his stuff is still pretty good. Like him coming back, you're right, he is the legend, first ballot Hall of Famer. His curveball is still there. His curveball, his change of speed, still there. He's missing a lot on the fastball, where I saw a few of them at 90 miles an hour and 89. But as long as he can change speeds, he'll still be able to strike people out with that Uncle Charlie, that 12-6 curveball. That honestly is probably one of the best curveballs I've seen since some of the video I've seen, or some of the old real tapes on Sandy Koufax. It's just a devastating curveball. So I hope he gets enough starts. I hope there's no setbacks. I definitely don't want him to be starting in the playoffs, because that means we're in some massive trouble. But I would love to see him get 3,000 strikeouts before the season's over. And, if he gets relegated to the bullpen, or, man, he just can't be a number 1 or 2 starter once the playoffs come around, because he just doesn't have that kind of dominant stuff anymore.
No, I don't think he does either. But, I mean, I think he's roughly maybe around 50 to 60 strikeouts away from the 3,000 number, joining 19 other pitchers that have reached that 3,000 club. So it's already kind of a rarity to have somebody doing that. And judging by the fact that starting pitchers aren't going as deep, I mean, we could be seeing the very end of maybe 3,000 strikeout pitchers, or even 300 game winners. What do you make of that?
Yeah, the 300 game winners, I'm not sure we're going to see where's Kershaw? I don't know if Kershaw's close to 300. 3,000 strikeouts, that's a lot of strikeouts. I don't think we'll see the longevity. I think there's too much money involved, and there's honestly the uptick in Tommy John surgery. So, I don't know if people's arms are going to make it to have that kind of longevity and have those 15 years, 16, 17 year careers where they're able to, rack up those kind of numbers. And then the money too. I don't know if, people will play that long as well with, the crazy contracts being handed out to, average starting pitchers. Glasnow, like I mentioned, was, an average pitcher, and he just got a 4-year, $110 million deal. So I just don't think the longevity is there, and I just don't see any of those kind of arms. Paul Skeens, he's one of the young aces, one of the young studs. When he comes up for his big contract, he'll be a $300 million player, if not something crazier than that. And after his first contract, contract. Does he really need to keep playing? Probably not. So I just don't see people having those long careers and putting up those kind of, magical numbers that we grew up watching and seeing.
And on the subject of Paul Skeens, who is from California itself, where do you think a potential landing spot post Pirates contract? Because I'm watching him pitch these last couple of games, and I'm thinking, man, they're not really doing him a service by having him go 6 or 7 innings. He had, I think, inning in the last 3 starts, or rather, within his last 3 starts, he went 8 innings deep, and there's no run support, and the team's like not really doing him a favor. So it's like, well, he's just going to write out his rookie contract and maybe see where he can go to maybe play on a more competitive team, or maybe just a team that's going to give him the most money. Where do you think Paul Skeens is going to end up in the MLB landscape?
It always goes back to like the top markets. So you got, the Yankees, who will probably back up the Brinks truck. The Dodgers will be out there. The Mets, they're always throwing money around, not wisely. I can't say the Angels won't try to throw money, especially because he's a Fullerton kid. So I can't imagine him going to the Angels because they're not competitive. But, I could see him going to the Yankees, Dodgers, Red Sox, or just the highest bidder, because at that point he gets one massive deal, and he'll like any pitcher, you go to the highest bidder, and that's where I see him. Just whoever's going to give him that blank check and let him fill it out is where he's going to be headed. But would I love to see him in blue? What kind of payroll the Dodgers have in a couple of years? And right now it's a little premature to have that discussion. I think let's see what Ohtani looks like next year before we start trying to get Paul Skeens anywhere else. And I think he's under control for the next 6 years with the Pirates, so he won't be going anywhere anytime soon. And if you've heard some of Paul Skeens' interviews, he actually wants to go back into the Air Force. So I don't see him playing, having a 15-year career. I'm sure he'll have one mega deal and then make his way back, because he was trying to be a pilot in the Air Force, which is pretty badass for that dude.
Yeah, modern day Ted Williams.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe to come to a close, how do you figure, or where do you figure the Dodgers will be as far as like the playoff picture, how things will shake out for the playoff brackets, and maybe what stage the Dodgers will end up?
I see the Dodgers, I won't say rolling through the playoffs, but if they get healthy and you have Yamamoto, Stone, Glass now throwing, that's a tough trio to beat. And with their offense, if Marcus Betts comes back, Max Muncy comes back again from his phantom injury, where it's just now about pain tolerance and he's not playing. And that really, makes me question Muncy's Stones. Mm-hmm. I just don't see them getting beat in the playoffs. They're going to be a tough out for anybody, especially with Atlanta losing, some of their best players early in the year. So it'll be hard, especially with the Dodgers having Tommy Edmonds. If he does play short, you can move Mookie Betts back to center and, have really 3 big gloves out there and some bats out there. It's just hard to see anybody, really beating the Dodgers this year, especially with how amazing Ohtani's been. I know I watched some Angel games last year to watch him, but that dude's delivered and then some. He's going to go 40-40, something every Angels fan is going to cringe at, where he's setting these crazy records for the Dodgers.
Yeah, I think, on the subject of Ohtani real quick, man, I can't. I've gone to a few games, and the way he hits the ball doesn't sound like anybody else, and the numbers he's been putting up have been ridiculous. And I read this statistic about, because I think he has had a direct impact as far as tourism in Los Angeles goes. We went from, I think, 170,000 people from Japan traveling to Los Angeles. And then with the acquisition of Shohei Ohtani, that number has tripled. So it's now around 450,000 or something along the lines of that. And it's just the amount of people that he's bringing, the fanaticism. I mean, you go to these games and you see these people like lining up hours before the game to Shohei bobblehead night. I mean, dude, I was out there, I think maybe 4 or 5 hours in advance, and the line already started at the Vince Scully Avenue, like the gates. It was already going down towards the police academy. And I think as far as future prospects go for the Dodgers, when it comes to Japanese baseball, dude, he's opened the gates to basically have the Dodgers be the front runners for, I think, every player. And one player being Roki Sasaki, who's somebody that I kind of talked to you about before we hopped on. And I'm not sure if you gotten a chance to see him pitch through the videos that I sent you, but that's the next generational talent that a lot of people are excited about and potentially could come to the MLB next year.
And they do, and the Dodgers will probably, with the Yankees and the Giants, will have like the top choices of all the foreign players coming over. And let's just be real, the Dodgers have the biggest and deepest pockets. You know, they don't mind spending, and they're spending pretty wisely on their international stars. So yeah, I can't imagine that they wouldn't continue that trend, especially because they have Yamamoto and Ohtani here, and the fan base, and all that will play a huge role into the next wave of Japanese stars coming over, and hopefully making the Dodgers a lot better and a lot deeper, and continuing this run. What the Dodgers need to do is close one of these World Series off, and make that $700 million contract worth it for us and for themselves as well. They're generating. They did exactly what they wanted to do with this Ohtani signing. He was already a star in Anaheim. He just seems to have leveled up and become a bigger star here in the real proper Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And it's been amazing watch. It's been insane how good he is and how good a hitter he is. I mean, like you said, on TV, on the radio, it sounds like a cannon goes off every time he hits a home run. The ball comes off, jumps off his bat. He's been everything as advertised and then some. I don't know of any LA fan that just isn't wowed by him on a daily basis. And dude, the dude can run. Like I knew he could run with the Angels, but he's really turned it loose this year. And man, at being 6'4", 230, that dude can fly. He's fast as hell. So it's been fun to watch. Like I said, it's been fun to watch the Dodgers this year, and we got to just enjoy the magic carpet right until October, and try to close it off, and stop being the Atlanta Braves of the early and late 90s.
Oh man, that's like nightmare fuel for me. The fucking double digit division champs numerous years, and then not even have the World Series turn out for them that many times. That's we certainly have become that in like the last 10 years, and that just gives me nightmares.
That sucks.
Yeah. Well, anyways, really appreciate you coming on, and if you have more free time to share with us to talk more baseball or even just sports in general, because I mean we're getting closer and closer towards football and obviously hockey and NBA. So if you got any opinions on that, man, we'd love to have you back.
Awesome. Yeah, let me know. We'll try to do this again in a couple weeks. Yeah, it's been fun. It was a lot of fun talking ball with you guys, and especially Dodger baseball. Yeah, maybe we'll have to sprinkle in a couple other teams or different sports. I'm up for anything.
All right, cool, man. Thanks for hopping on, Cousin Danny, the special guest for Chirping from the Pine, and we'll see him in the future weeks, hopefully, and maybe he'll give us some more Dodger talk and more sports talk in general. So stick around, folks.
Yeah, stick around. Or maybe he'll have an unfortunate accident and never be able to come on and talk about the Dodgers again. Who knows? I don't know. I'm just saying. Oh, come on. We got to wrap it up a little bit. All right. Anyways, thanks everyone for listening. If you want to check out all of our other stuff, you can go to GameRageMagazine.com. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Game Rage Magazine. Twitter/X at Game Rage Mag. Everything we do is all on YouTube, Game Rage Magazine on there. If you want to follow Adam at All Gas No Trash Official, and go listen to the All Gas No Trash podcast, conveniently available at GameRageMagazine.com. That'll do it for us. We'll catch you guys on the next one. That
was Chirpin' from the Pine, the Game Rage Sports Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Game Rage Magazine. Follow us on X at Game Rage Mag. You can go to our website, www.gameragemagazine.com.